Good morning. I want to talk about Angular. That's Angular. What? Okay. That's what I want to talk about Angular. So, um, Angular is a platform that makes it easy to build applications to the web. So, what this basically means is you want to build single page web apps, which are applications that are loaded dynamically. Which applications are loaded dynamically instead of having to reload the page. So, for example, if you an Angular a normal HTML application to route to different pages, a new page has to be loaded every time you need a new page. But in case of Angular, this the current page is just updated, and this saves data kind of. So, Angular combines declarative templates, dependency injection, end-to-end tooling, and integrated best practices to solve development challenges. And it empowers developers to build applications that are live on the web and mobile or the desktop. So most of these things were not available before Angular came along. It was much difficult to build web applications, but with Angular, it's easier for a developer to solve issues that require web applications or single page applications. So um, the Angular is written using TypeScript. This version of Angular is written using TypeScript. Earlier versions of Angular used JavaScript. And so JavaScript is like a subset of TypeScript. For example, TypeScript is much stricter in the rules it applies to. Stricter in the rules it applies to. For example, um, type for what I know, type error is much stricter in TypeScript than JavaScript. Um, you can use a string and an integer can be assigned to the same variable, and JavaScript will not complain. But TypeScript, it kind of insists that you specify the type of variable you are defining and what kind of value to get, whether it's string or a boolean or an integer. So, and AngularJS is different framework than Angular. Like I said, Angular uses JavaScript and AngularJS uses TypeScript. So the Angular CLI, the tool that allows you to create, maintain, and build Angular projects. This is like your way of the CLI is like way of sending commands to your Angular project to to build something for you, to make a new page, to create a new service, to create a new component. So differences between JavaScript and I think I've talked about this already. Um, JavaScript is a subset of TypeScript. Most of all JavaScript rules are in TypeScript, but TypeScript takes it a step further. And like I said, it's much stricter in, with your code than JavaScript is, which helps you to and this helps you to be able to catch errors that will not be caught if you are using JavaScript. It's sometimes it can be frustrating if you are using JavaScript and when you run your code, there's an error that you're trying to find for out, but with TypeScript, it already tells you that so error is here and you have to fix this before your code will run or to run your code at all. So the basic building block of Angular applications are engine modules, and they provide a compilation context for components. So every app has a root module. A module is a way for you to a module is a way for you to combine components, it's a way to communicate with component services and dependencies in your application. And every app has a root module, which is like the link to all other modules in your app. You can look at Angular modules as you can look at an Angular application as a puzzle, and each module you have is a piece of that puzzle. So when your application is complete, your application is basically an arrangement. Your modules make up your application, and like I said, each module is a piece of the puzzle. And when your application runs, your root module is the first thing that runs, and it bootstraps, and each application has a root module and it uses bootstrapping. Components define views, which are a set of clean elements that Angular can choose and modify according to your program logic or data. Components use services, which provide specific functionality not directly related to views. Service providers can be injected into components as dependency, making your code modular, reusable, and efficient. This is just telling you that components and services are simply classes and decorators. It's just telling you that components and services are classes. The way you tell Angular what you want to do or the data you want in your application, that's what components are for. Well, like I said, I think I was explained this already. Let's go for modules. Um, like that, just like JavaScript modules, engine modules can import other modules. Like I said, your root module is your is the starting place of your app, and other modules you require in your other modules you use in your Angular application will be imported into your root module. Like your modules communicate with each other to make up your application. That's how. For example, the example stated there, for you to use the root service in your app, router service in your app, you need to import the router module. So for any service you want to use, any component you want to use, any new page you create, you have to make use of the module of that component in your root module and declare it that this module is going to be used. For example, if you need Firebase, you have to import the module before you can make use of um, the functions that Firebase components provides. Okay. So data binding is one of the most important features of Angular, and it works by assigning the value of the component to the UI. Basically, you this makes your application dynamic. If the value of your component changes, your UI changes. Like I explained this, Angular is a single page application. Angular is a single page application, and as your data changes, the page is reloaded dynamically. So there are two types of data binding in Angular: property binding and event binding. Property binding assigns the property of a component to the UI. For example, if you have a variable in a component that says x equals to yellow or something, and you have an H1 element in your markup that uses that value, in your page will show yellow. If the value changes to something like red, the value of the page, the text in the page changes to red immediately. And event binding, uh, this is just like the name says, if there's an event, something changes in your app. A common example is you click a button, something happens. So if you are browsing through web pages, any button you see, you click it, something always happens. Either something is uploaded or something loads up or a new page is loaded up or something. So Angular supports two-way binding. Talk this already. Um, um, Angular has great support for mobile apps. That's one of the major purposes of Angular for creating single page apps, like I said, and it addresses limiting factors such as navigation via touch, screen sizes, and mobile hardware. Any questions? Yes. Okay.
Oh, I'm supposed to. Yeah, man, I can come.